Yeah. And looking at the bans, of course, it makes sense for them to go to the Storm Spirit, especially leading up to this point with the Puck ban. But it's interesting for them to go for the Tiny because Tiny definitely more popular as a mid laner, still has that same build, the same kind of ugly build-up you have to go for nowadays where you just need a lot of gold. You need the Ags. You can't really go for right click anymore. So that's something that Hikori still need to polish up with Lumiere's hero. But that's also where there's a lot of pressure now onto Analog because, well, if you were already lacking on disables before, now there's a Storm Spirit to catch. Now you've got a Blink combo to get him, or you're going to whiff and then you've got to look for other things. So really, the game and the team fights, especially for Hikori right now, are going to begin and end with this Tiny's initiation. It's where I think, as well in Lumiere's hero, they need something that's going to allow them to push onto these buildings, but also a hero now that's going to allow them to get onto Roche, and they could probably do for another initiator. So that's a tough bill for Lumiere's hero, especially because, well, 2 more bans against you. 5RAT should be able to single out quite a few of those heroes.
And the Luna's a pretty damn good start, right? High damage, good farmer, a little bit of extra lockdown to throw in, so really ticks all the boxes that Hokori may have been looking towards. On the Hokori side, though, I do like the Timber Saw ban. The hero has obviously not been nearly as popular as it was a little while back, but it's still a speed hero. Give 5RATFORCESTAFF that sort of extra bit of frontline and a pretty substantial amount of damage, too. So that is something I think Corey need to be a little bit careful of. Naga and Storm are already going to give you problems. Don't let your opponents get a heavy hitter on top of that in the off.
Yeah, and that's where speed as well, specifically that player, don't let him cheese you. It's where he has the NP, he has the Timber Saw. It has, I think the Beastmaster even right now looks really solid. I think they could probably go for that. Okay,
All right.
that's why they banned it. Yeah, makes sense because he is gonna do that. He's gonna be annoying, but we'll have to see now. What are we gonna see from you, Mr. Speed? Because I think really all of the obvious heroes are kind of taken out here. Haven't seen him dive too deep into the strength hero pool as well. It's still a Mars at the end of the day. If he wants to just play something extremely standard and have a little bit more damage with the Hoodwink, could definitely see him go for something like that, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, and I guess the question at this point is, if we're 5-rat, what are we looking for? Do we feel like we need more damage? Do we want more team fight strength? Are still plenty of options, although they don't have any time. There we go. 4 seconds on the clock when they make the
Ooh.
choice. That is a core Undying, or yeah, I don't think Speed wants to play core Hoodwink. So the Undying at the 3 maybe isn't much in terms of damage output, but you get him in the middle ET, right? You pop your Flesh Golem, you throw down a Tombstone. Hokori are gonna have to sort of deal with that. Of course, you did just pick it into a snap, so there are some concerns there, but I feel like Speed's still gonna do things with this.
And the funniest thing is, this is pretty much the exact same lineup they ran in that EPL series that we keep talking about. 3 of the 5 heroes are exactly the same, and then this is where Hikora would pick Sniper. Do not think that they should, nor want to pick Sniper, even though at this stage of the game they probably could. I think, honestly, Drow looks just as good if I was looking at it. Just something that's going to be really obnoxious and maybe has a little bit more control and survivability, but let's see. What's it going to be, Lumiere? Morphling also works for him. I think Lumiere really world's his oyster at
Ooh,
this point. And yeah,
yeah.
it just makes sense. You're laning versus Undying. You're going to have infinite stick charges in the lane. Lane's still scary. You can get popped real easy. Some of the Gardeck's going to have to kind of give him the early warning for. But at the same time, it's also your classic counter versus the Naga Siren. Because as soon as you get that Aghanim Scepter, well, you pop it on any of the illusions. It steals that Agi and the attack speed from the main hero. And then DNM, who has to build up for more stat heavy items as opposed to durability, is caught in a pretty awkward position. So honestly, ticks all the boxes, makes you an even better fighter, is one of those ultra carries that, again, we're hyping up for Lumiere. I mean, just kind of rounds out everything. Why not?
Yeah, and as you said, if you get that stat steal away from the Naga Siren, that would be option A. I suppose, realistically speaking, you could also just go for a morph into speed, drop a tombstone of your
Mm.
own, right? I think, would you get the status resistance instead at that point, which, considering 5-Rat's lockdown is kind of weakish, honestly. That could matter. You're locked down for even less, and then the Morphling just starts dishing out crazy damage on you.
No, for sure. It's one of those situations where there really is no bad option. and Lumiere gets to play probably his best hero. It's hard to say
Mhm.
because there's a lot of good Lumiere heroes, but again, SA carries that get to play this Morphling, sometimes it's just enough. Sometimes it is good enough to just 1v5. We've already seen a few of the scary Morphlings already in the tournament, but we'll see, because 5RAT surely should have known about this, would have known about this. I think last time when they picked up the sniper, that's a very not active hero. I think Morph can definitely show up to a few more fights, so we'll have to see if this is the change-up that Hokori can use to their advantage and actually take a game off 5RAT here, or if maybe 5RAT's just too good. Is the Naga Siren too powerful? Is the Kid Storm Spirit, It should be a fun game to watch. Honestly, really close draft. Both teams have really good ideas.
That was not. Sorry, I got distracted. That was not the same cosmetic set in the draft screen compared to the loading screen for analog. Not really sure what happened there, but maybe you just changed it up last second. But either way, we're getting into the match opening game here. Do want to point
Que
out,
foi, hã?
in terms of the positioning of these two teams, ET, they both have
sentido,
3 wins
Lopes?
each.
Esse
So
cheirinho de desastre?
if you win this, if you take it 2-0, you move into a tie for first, whichever team does it. A 1-1 still puts you in relatively solid contention for a top 4 spot, which becomes even more impactful than usual. People have probably gotten used to us always talking about positions in these Pro Series, but this is not like previous Pro Series. Only half of the teams in Phase 2 will move on to Phase 3. This is not the single team getting eliminated that we saw in the previous Pro Series, so you can't really coast anymore, right? You've actually got to get top 4, otherwise you're going home.
Mm-hmm. And I think the revamp of the system definitely raises the stakes, gets us out of what, for many BTS Pro Series, seemed like an experimentation phase, especially with the way that patches had dropped in times past for teams to really kind of flex and try out some new things. But at the end of the day, now it's time for you to just get the wins, do it. It's why we've seen, I think, so many dirty heroes come out so early on. These teams don't want to be playing Brood and Visage and Enigma, but they will when it falls to them. It's where you almost have to start respecting it a little bit more than a scrim, where, again, previous BTS Pro Series, maybe you could fudge it. Maybe as long as you didn't get eliminated, you were okay. But now it's time to go. Otherwise, you will drop.
Just a nice little change in format, to be honest, because, I mean, to a certain extent, the games, even in previous Pro Series, they were still entertaining, right? We never really got too many that were just straight up boring the whole way through, but it gets better when the stakes are raised, when the tension is there, even where we're standing now, still on the front end of that group stage schedule. So, see which team sort of comes ready to play as we take a look down bot first. Gardic already trying to go to work with that level 1 battery assault, but this is not a fun situation for him. You're laning up against an Undai, you see Speed just kind of step over and not just eat some of that damage, but give way more back onto Gardic than either of the two in that lane received. As First Blood, of course, goes on the other side. Vitaly and Theolacor make the jump in. They don't even have the cookie stun. That was just Scatterblast into Soul Assumption to take down AB1.
Yeah, it's the Visage lane. How many times have we seen this already? It's just the spam comes out. It's 3 soul assumptions that max charge. You have to trade into it. Of course, damage that will pretty much never land onto your Naga Siren, just because the mirror image is a little bit too good of an answer versus the Visage, but it will land onto your CM, which is very sad, but a job that AB1 will kind of supply for his teammate. But yeah, bottom. They get a return trade out. Just honestly, a death that I don't think Gardic minds too much. His courier was coming out with a little bit more regen, so now when he comes back to lane, he'll have everything to output onto his opponents. But this lane, it's not fun. It really only gets fun, I think, once they hit maybe level 3, where Lumiere can start to whittle them down a little bit with the adaptive strike, and you have level 2 battery assault. But until then, there's just simply no way for Gardic to approach.
It's just unfortunate for Gardic. Moose and Speed both hit level 2 just that little bit earlier, so it actually took them everything, right? Bushwhack, Acorn Shot, the Decay, and then the Soul Rip to finish it, so they quite literally had to throw everything that they had into it, and as you said, the death is unfortunate, but really not that bad. He's back in lane, he's got his regen, so
I am a robot.
should be
Yeah,
just
kidding.
fine. In the meantime, though, swinging things over to the middle lane where Analog is Honestly, getting pushed back just a little bit here. He is behind on the bottle timings compared to Kits, so the Storm obviously able to maybe just hit him a little bit harder, knowing he has the regen to sort of win out the trades. So, see what Analog can do once his bottle is out to him, because it is being delivered right now, but for the time being, we're going to see maybe a slight gap for him.
Yeah, and honestly, really nice from Kits to just have everything right now. It's where the Tiny's not going to be forced to take it with the water run without his bottle, which always feels pretty sad. But Kits has honestly just been doing a fantastic job of abusing the attack slow from Overload, because Analog is able to fight for denies, but with the way that Kits has been timing, and especially how he's been playing in lane, it does get a little bit more difficult for you. Of course, though, it is a Tiny. He will get his last hits. He will Ava for flag bearers and ranged creeps. It's not like you're ever going to really be able to shut out this hero.
See right on cue there, just kind of throws the avalanche out, hits up Kits a little bit, and yeah. He's going to be behind, but Kits isn't going to sort of leave him in the dust or anything like that, or at least you would hope not. We'll see if Kits actually decides to get a little bit more aggressive, because as we just saw a moment ago, ET, he did opt for that point in the Vortex. Sometimes we see the Storms ignore that if they're just going to focus on farming instead, but Kits wants to try and trade damage.
No, it is definitely doing a good job, but that's also where the funny thing about bottom, if bottom lane is really just hopeless for Gardic, he'll venture towards the mid lane, and then it'll become a battle for the bottles, and that's where every Storm Spirit game truly lies, because as we always say, a very rune-dependent hero, because you're either off to the races or you're dead in the water.
Interesting to note here, Gardic has not committed his point here at level 2, which the only thing I could think of is maybe he's seeing if there's some sort of rocket flare play, maybe if the Tiny can bait Kits into being crazy low in HP, but right now Analog is the one playing a very dangerous game right now. No bottle charges, he's holding on to just a Fairy Fire underneath his own tower, so not really in that position, and Gardic actually decides, yeah, let's just take the cogs, let's keep Moose off the rune, never mind, that plan fails, Moose just denies it. And, well, now if you're Analog, that was kind of your last hope. Yeah, you see him going back to base. Without the water rune to refill the bottle, he really doesn't have anything left to work with.
Yep, and then the lead for Kits will start to grow, and now Kits will 100% get his level 6 before the Tinies, so maybe a play for Kits to look for later on down the line, but he's very happy with how his early game's going.
Mid's going great, top's going pretty well, outside of AB1 obviously giving up first blood. DNM has not received a lot of pressure, even Speed over in the bottom lane. You take a look at him, 22 and 3. He's outpacing Lumiere by the slimmest of margins, but it still counts, and Undying outpacing a Morphling under any circumstances is still kind of surprising, as Lumiere got in a little bit of trouble there, but he's going to walk away. But it's worth noting, ET, he doesn't have a point up in the waveform yet, so if he does sort of, I don't know, stop paying attention to his positioning, he doesn't have an easy way out.
Yeah, this is kind of the new age Morphling strats where you just get the adaptive strike because it's such a brutally efficient spell. 50 mana for a guaranteed last hit or a guaranteed nuke every 10 seconds is pretty brutal to lane versus, even though, you know, Speed's doing his best. But that's where if Gardic can somehow get moves to rotate back towards mid, as the Hoodwink probably should, Speed will eventually start to lose this lane. It's where the Morphling does start hitting that hard, and with the Morbid Mask, of course, not lifestealing that much off the creeps, lifestealing just as much off the heroes. He wants to trade in these types of lanes.
He's got the strength to do so right about now. Part of the reason why Gardic not hanging around too long. Recognizing, yeah, the Morphling's probably fine. He can solo for a bit. Gonna try and make some moves elsewhere on the map, looking for that bottom rune spawn, and it is going to go their way. Arcane Rune into Analog's hands. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Hokori, that's a bit of a rough situation. Can he cookie out? No, he can't. Pulled back in by the Vortex. He is dancing quite nicely here. The root, though, should finish him, but Analog comes in. There's the Ava. He has no point. He does have a point in toss, excuse me. He just did not go for it there, and no trade possible. I suppose, you know, you still got the Arcane Rune, but he had to activate it for that fight, so it's maybe not as efficient as he was hoping for.
Yeah, just wasn't able to follow up on anything. It was a little bit of a messy zip from Kits. Well, I got a little bit scared, but everything kind of works out for you. And more importantly, just making sure that the Storm Spirit doesn't get the Arcane Rune, Now Kits might just look to farm instead, but we'll have to see what Kits actually decides to go
Ooh,
for, if he decides to get the Soul Ring, or if it's just the Witchblade, what he looks for next.
that's unfortunate. Yogor TP's in, refills the bottle if nothing else, but whiffs on the sentry placement, so still a little bit of high ground vision beyond the normal tower radius for Kits, and Analog is still going to try and hit him. Oh, going to try and hit him up. That was honestly very well timed. It's just Kits was a little bit faster on the reactions.
Yeah, now this is where if 5RAT really wanted to, you would try to get a play going for Vitaly, but I think Vitaly's just been playing a little bit too well in the trees right now. They have been giving this solo lane to him, so he gets his level 6 a little bit faster, but that's where they could try and find the isolated hero, but instead they are whiffing a little bit. But of course, they get pressure on mid, and more importantly, they kill bottom, catch him off guard, 2 points in the soul rip, just enough damage from speed, perfectly calculated.
And just before Gardic was going to be there as well, he was trying to make his way over, but doesn't reach it in time. Now on the other side of the map, Vitaly's going to get hit up, rooted in place, dropped by DNM. 5RAT, they're off to the races. 4-1 start, 2k net worth lead. A stack that Gardic almost certainly got vision of there, but Hokori aren't in a position to really steal that. There's a fight now in the river. Kits is not going to be able to take the Olakor down as he did grab that illusion rune, but he's walking back into range of a sentry. He's trying to set up for a stun play, but this is not really what they want. They're going to get one, but they might lose Analog now as well because DNM is getting involved. They get the pullback, they get the root, they have the damage. They have the damage. There we go. See, I told you. No worries.
Really sixed up from DNM. Really good rotation from him. The body blocks from his illusion, and maybe they get a return on the Kits.
Look at these
it's
TPs
just
coming
not
in,
enough damage, though. Yeah.
Well, they scramble assistance in time. Meanwhile, Gardic on the bottom lane is, I think, a little bit baited. He saw those TPs. Moose was one of them, and kind of assumed he was going to be free to move. And Speed, there's no way. Speed, you can't do this. Yeah, okay. Lumiere eventually just says, forget this, I'm waveforming out. But Analog has rotated back in. I don't know if he has the damage. This is still Flesh Golem for a few more seconds, but they're going to give it a try with some backup. Yolakor's coming in as well, but the tree kind of messes his pathing a little bit. He has to walk around it rather than going straight in, and they don't find anything there. Of course, they don't lose Lumiere either, ET, so I guess you can call that a win, but still rough overall because 5RAT found like 3 or 4 kills there.
Yeah, and 3k net, and then top lane, Kits gets active. He's on Vitaly. Vitaly's going to go down yet again here. Doesn't lose any birds, but 3k gold lead at 9 minutes into the game. I mean, it speaks for itself. 5RAT have just won all 3 lanes, and Hokori have not really found their plays yet. And of course, Hokori's lineup, and especially their supports, are very level 6 dependent. Right now, they're definitely waiting for a tome, and then the Hokori will have the more and more kisses or the hook shot to actually make a play happen. And okay, Analog finds his first pick of the game there on Moose, but aside from that, this is their moment. This is where Hokori, they get the tome, they get a smoke going, they probably look for a kill onto the Undying, and then they're back in it. But they've definitely been playing that low and slow style up until this point, just because they are that level bound.
Well, we'll see if they can start shifting some momentum. Analog is about halfway to a Blink Dagger, so there's a little bit of good news for him. That is certainly going to be a step in the right direction, but now they need to make sure they don't get caught because Kits is coming in with the haste rune. Good cogs from the clock, pushing him back, and actually getting a second push there too, but this isn't going to matter. Even if Gardic somehow survived, the real sort of big factor there was Speed finding a solo kill onto Lumiere, I believe. Yeah, 1 soul rip, 1 decay, so he just caught him on basically max agi and took him down.
Yeah, just didn't expect it, because you don't expect it. Nobody expects the 4-4-0 Undying, but, Speed is Speed, and this is why Speed is such a monster, because he knows what he needs to do to win these lanes, to win these certain situations, and then he just does it. It's that simple. There's probably a Game Week video about it, I don't know, but it just works. And then you just are kind of kicking yourself, because that's a death that Lumiere definitely shouldn't, and definitely didn't think he would give up. And now, look at where he's standing. He's been put into the firing range here to try and defend his mid tower, while his team's trying to get the good trade onto that T1. And of course, he will be able to defend it, but he's certainly not farming very well right now.
And even with him here to defend, Chip damage is being dealt. That's a
No
freezing
way.
field. Are you serious? They're just going to go all in. Lumiere dropping low, and he's taken down.
It's a sad state of affairs. And of course, they get the top tower, but at the cost of everything. And now your mid tower is going to go down, and you will not find that trade. It's just, again, 5RAT snowballing their lanes in such a successful fashion. Just textbook Dota.
Man. There's your level advantage too, right? Most supports had their level 6 before the opposing ones, so they have sort of a blank check to try and make moves like that, make moves like this as well as Moose. Gets in on to guard it. Kits cops a little bit of damage there on the back end, but they find the kill before Hokori were able to fully set up for a counter engagement, and 12-3 ET, 5k net worth lead in their pockets. DNM has been not even remotely bothered, not even speed bumps on the road for him. He's just farming his ass off, and he's going to have a Manta style pretty quickly here. He's almost to the ulti orb already.
Yeah, no, it's your classic 13, 14-minute Manta style timing where he's just having a great time. Got a few stacks to rely on as well that Avion had made for. And again, it's hard to say anything in this game because the gold net worth lead speaks for itself. They're just happy. Okay. Who's tried for it? No solo kill mid for the Hoodwink, but you can already see, though, that's the confidence. That's the power of having this mid-tier 1 gone already and having a level 7 Hoodwink this early in the game. Moose is just occupying this bottom space. Maybe taking a little bit from Speed, but, you know, Speed's doing his own thing. He's happy. He's satisfied, but every member of 5RAT is farming right now. Not a single person isn't thinking about what to do net worth-wise. Maybe once Kits TP's out back to mid, they look for another smoke play, but they are just so satisfied with this game state.
Playing a very efficient style of Dota right now, whereas Hokori, well, they're doing their best here, right? They're still finding some farm on these heroes, and that's going to be the big one. Link Dagger finished off for Analog. 6k down this early ET. He's got to be the guy, and he's got the right supports to make some plays, but they got to start hitting.
Well, they definitely do. We still haven't seen a Kisses yet, and here's the smoke on the rune. Zips for it, pops the smoke, but here's the play, and there goes your damage. They find the Snapfire first, and they even see Analog
they
still.
got him with the sharpshooter. Moose, I mean, listen, he may not have found the kill the last time around, but the accuracy is on point. He's fired off 3 shots and hasn't missed yet.
Oh, and that was your, I don't want to say your big moment, but still feels like Hokori are just playing behind, and a hook shot whiffed, and now full mana Storm Spirit. He's being patient, though. Yeah, Kits is not overextending himself here, but AB1 will also very easily be able to walk out. But unless we get a smoke, or maybe at this point they're just going to wait for the Wraith Pack timing, Hokori aren't getting very much stronger. And with them not making any plays, Gardic and Theliacor are permanently level 6 at this point. They are not gaining any strength right now. And here's their what feels like kind of a desperation smoke with the tiny Blank Dagger. But if 5RAT read this, I don't know. This is feeling like a shutout almost, and okay, they're clicking. They don't see Speed just yet.
This isn't the hero you want to run into, though. Yeah, he's going to tank up immediately. Pops the Golem. They do get the Kisses out, though. They get the Cog Trap as well, so Speed, maybe they do have enough to bring him down here. They're keeping him locked in, and they will find it. Big first kill for them, but now they need more. I don't think they're going to get it. Moose and Kits walk away, so well, maybe it wasn't the hero that you wanted in terms of the easiest kill, but they do get it. But now Moose, here comes his revenge. Full sharpshooter channel right in Gardic's face. Analog, though, blinks in. There's the Avatos. They take down Kits with Lumiere waveforming in to seal the deal. Unstoppable streak into the Morphling's hands, and all of a sudden you look at Lumiere, he's nearly 1,000 gold ahead of the Storm, so at least for the Morphling, things are starting to look a little bit better.
Yeah, and they did find their way onto any target. That was all that was meant to accomplish there. And 5RAT didn't read it. So to Hokori's credit, they caught their opponents off guard. And now their next batch of spells, of course, Kisses were used. So they're not going to have that. But Hookshot's back up. That's all they really need to get a play going here. Even though bottom, Lumiere, oh, that's all it takes. And now they can't smoke to Speed because they don't have Kisses. So the damage is not there. So they're going to go for Kits again.
I mean, Moose, 4-1-6 on this Hoodwink, still has not missed with Sharpshooter, which I don't know. It's a relatively easy ability to hit, but it's far from guaranteed, as Song is going to be deployed mid. AB1, I mean, he'll take some damage here from the battery assault, but not enough to bring him down. Now they might turn on to Analog. The cookie is going to allow him to stun up the Naga Siren, but that puts him right in range of that pull. The Electric Vortex brings him in. AB1 does eventually die here, but they're looking for the bigger trade-offs. They want Gardic. They get the Core on top of him because your Snapfire just kind of wandered into the fight on no health, so maybe 1 for 3. Perfectly solid trade for 5RAT, and they continue to really just play efficiently. I really don't know how many other times we can say it, ET, and you look at the Naga Siren, looking towards, I guess, an Orchid maybe as the pickup here, now that the Mantis picked up, and once you reach that point, you're in trouble, because you're struggling already against a Naga Siren who's been mostly AFK farming. Now she's actually going to look to fight.
And of course, with those 2 previous successful plays, they were with DNM just farming. And I think it's a nice idea from Hokori to go for the secondary smoke there and then just claim the high ground vision and then go for that play. But they just couldn't have known how close DNM was. Because if DNM is top, farming and pushing that wave out, then that's a dead CM, then that's a follow-up play, then they go back to the mid-turn, they retreat. But DNM's positioning was simply too good. And now they're getting aggressive, though. Mantis style finished up on the Morphling, so he feels a little bit more confident, but this is also them just trying to abuse the Visage as much as they can right now, but we'll see. There's the Manta.
Dodges out the silence, able to wait from away, and now Kits is the one in some trouble. Nice solar to heal him up, but he's still dropping. He's able to zip out, though, so Kits will be all right, but he's no longer involved in this fight, but there's Moose getting the sharpshooter hit down onto the Morphling. That is going to push Lumiere back a little bit, but Speed doesn't want to let him go. Speed, though, not really sure he is the decision maker in this process. He is on the front line, but he needs to start backing up because the damage is going to be there. The cookie stun does come through, but now Gardic doesn't have any backup. Everyone was too distracted with the illusions on the other side of the river. Gardic just kind of gets sacrificed there. If they had followed that up with damage, sure. You know, Gardic sacrifice looks pretty good, but without it, you just killed your support, really.
You know, everybody runs out of damage. Too many ultis just got spent too quickly, but this is a really nice toss back right when the ulti ends as well. Perfectly executed there, but man, watching Speed's inventory, seeing this Holy Locket fill up with charges, it's honestly just kind of fun to watch. Full Philia Core. Not gonna burn, but
Core just saw his life flash before his eyes on that one, though. Dangerously low, but okay. They're able to save him, right? Analog, I mean, he had to use Toss, but it's on a relatively low cooldown. He's right back up, and now if you're Hokori, what are you looking for? Because that pick was great, as you said. They timed it up perfectly right as the ult was ending. Everything goes well for them, but you still have to bear in mind that that pick comes on the back of a fight that did not go particularly well for them. So we see their pick-off potential, and it does have to be respected, but we need to see that they can win some of these fights straight up.
Yeah, and honestly, marching right back mid, taking that tier 1, taking the high ground vision, this is all just setting up the avenue towards that pit, and that's where Hokori are going to bring the next stage of this game. But also, something to note, the only reason they get to do that to the mid tower and Vitaly gets to sit there on what feels like half HP is because they know that there's a Storm Spirit in the game. If you see a Storm Spirit that doesn't have a rune, who's pushing out a top lane with, 600-700 mana, you don't have to worry about him. And I think that's where Kits still needs to be very careful of when he actually shows his hero, because you will see problems like that happen. And of course, the cost here was just losing your mid T1, but again, now it's going to be a battle for Roche. It's going to be a battle in the pit. It's where you simply do not want to give them any real more time here. It's also where if this Morphling somehow gets an Aegis in his pocket, well, he's going to be very happy. 5RAT also 100% would have washed that fight if they just waited for Song. And of course, Song is going to get easier to use, and you'll have it more often the higher level this Naga does actually get, but still, it just feels like maybe a slight mistake from them, because if Hokori can keep this ball rolling, well, I don't see why they should stop it.
That has to be the game plan for them, because they're 8k down, and you're not going to get all that back in one go at the 20-minute mark. That play does not exist, so slow and steady for them. Analog's going to be closing in on an Echo Saber here, so maybe a little bit more added to that burst potential. And, well, ET, here comes the Roche attempt. Lumiere, got to get your butt over there, but Yeah, without him, I don't think they take that all that quickly as the decoy comes in, scouts things out. Analog, though, went for the fight, and he needs a little bit more backup. He is getting rooted up, pulled in. Gardic, though, able to get on the back line, goes for the hook shot. That's going to keep Kits locked down for a bit, but the problem is Analog is still dropping. The song, okay. DNM kind of shifts away. That does buy time for your Tiny to blink away, so he will live. Gardic was the one who goes down, but now they're focusing in on the Morphling. He was on max Agi in that fight. And the chain lockdown just kind of takes him by surprise. Now there is no fight. Analog is in no position to engage, and Vitali may get pulled back in. There's going to be the Vortex. Soul Rip. Speed. Just comes in and finishes the job. Triple kill for the core Undying. And see, is this enough for 5RAT to now try and take Ro? Well, okay, hold on. They need to defend hits first, as the old core didn't get the stun. Well, now they can definitely take Roshan. There's no one left to contest him, but boy, if that cookie hits, just maybe you have a play to be made there, and that's with Shard too. That's extra distance, and he still didn't make it.
Yeah, just trying to go for that turn. It was already gonna be kind of risky, but, you know, it's sad that it ends up blowing him in their face like that, but again, it just moves so many times. The Bushwhacks, they're just barely on the lip there. Lumiere thinks he's gonna be fine. He feels like he's fine. And then, again, he dies. Pretty much full Agi. Fight blows up in their face. And 5RAT, they do decide to be patient, because, of course, without Tomb and again. Okay, reacted.
Oh, man. I mean, he reacts, but it still got close there with the sharpshooter coming in, so Lumiere lives. That's the important bit. He is working his way towards the Aghanim Scepter, so the Morph upgrade is going to make things a lot more difficult for the cores on the 5RAT side, and throughout all of that, it is worth noting, nobody goes back to the pit. Roshan just sits here and heals back up a little bit, so even with Hokori sort of losing some of those engagements, the Aegis is still out of their opponent's hands, which, I don't know, you're looking for silver linings at this point, because they're still down 10k.
Yeah, no, it certainly is not looking pretty. And, of course, before, 5RAT would have had the Aegis, but with their zombie running out, then they just decided to be patient instead and farm the entire map. So, honestly, a trade worth taking, but another thing that 5RAT are probably very conscious of is as long as Roche is available, that's a play that Hokori has to go for. So they will continue to hover around this top side of the map, meaning that, of course, your Naga Siren gets to play the other 50% and gets to farm everything with illusions. Of course, the rest of the members of 5RAT might start to suffer a little bit, but again, with the lead that they were able to get from that early game, doesn't feel like anybody's toes are really being stepped on right now. It's also where Speed, and not going for a really greedy build on this Undying, it's not like he's gripping for a BKB. It's not like he's trying to be a right clicker. Even though he's just kind of the lame Aura boy, it's working out for him because he's playing his hero exactly the role that they need right now, even though he's third highest net worth.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some items here, and he is starting to close in on that Wraith Pact pickup. Meanwhile, they got the heart on the Naga Siren, and they're looking to make a play onto Analog, who finished off his Echo Saber a little while back. That's cute, but it's not really going to help. Vitali didn't even really get to do anything. Silenced up and taken down pretty much instantly, so that was 2 cores killed off in the middle lane like they were under-leveled supports, basically.
Yep, and now, go to the pit, hit up the tomb, your Storm gets a regen rune, Storm Spirits with leads and river runes. I mean, it's just gross at this point.
Oh,
there is a steal. Yeah. He's being a little sus right now, and, well, yeah.
Kit says, not gonna let you try that one, sorry, but I mean, you gotta clean him up there, right? Because if Gardic just gets in and steals or denies anything, and that is more than worth his own life, so he was unsuccessful there. DNM got bashed on the very last attack. There we go. He is able to grab the Aegis, but it took him a half a second.
And very interesting that they actually have him take the Aegis, just because, of course, Storm Spirit Aegis,
right.
You know, that's something that always you try to play for, but DNM just knows that he's the building hitter. He's the one going to do it all.
Yeah, I don't know if you win this. He is going to need some backup. Teammates are coming in, but it's not going to be enough. Analog already dead. Tombstone actually stolen and placed on the high ground, so maybe they can do this. Mortimer Kiss is coming in. Gardic is going to connect with the hook shot. They're going for speed first, trying to take that Undying out of the equation, but speed is just so damn tanky. DNM's going to pop the song. That does mean Moose is going to miss with the sharpshooter, but they can reset the fight. They can take down the Tombstone, and now they're looking for kills. Trying to get onto Gardic first, hoping to take the Clockwork out. He's still silenced up. The burn doesn't kill him, but the zombies will, and now Lumiere, he's going to be forced to run, but he can't. Gets pulled back in by the Vortex. Can he somehow waveform away? Yes, he can. But will that be enough? They might just chase him into the base here. And DNM is thinking about it. He's going for it. He's going to get the ensnare. The Manta will immediately remove it, though, and Lumiere walks away. Vitaly, though, not nearly as fortunate. He will be picked off. One of his familiars will die, too, and ET, when the best thing we can say about that fight is that at least Lumiere doesn't die, that you've lost. You've lost the fight.
Yeah, and of course, it's so deep. It's behind any of the tier 2s that 5RAT kind of have to dutifully look to take pretty soon here. But, you know, it does just work. And as long as they're still killing the Tiny, you're cutting off that initiation at the knees. You're still making it almost impossible for them to actually get into you. And, of course, knowing that the kisses were already expended, Hokori are still just a very low damage lineup right now. They still need items. They still need to find ways to get Lumiere onto these creep waves. The Scotty would work wonders for them, honestly, and give them a good way to kill the Undying, but until then, there's just no real way for them to do very much. And DNM with the heart is just so obnoxious. Doesn't have to go anywhere. Poor Thiliakor.
Well, that's awkward. That was his own force staff, too, so he was just kind of facing the wrong direction there. And well, tower taken, free kill. Lumiere, got to be a little bit careful here. Defensive, no, not defensive toss. They actually tossed DNM in. Problem is, that keeps Analog outside of the base. He needs some backup, and they're not going to get it. Analog will fall again. That is now his 6th death on the Tiny ET, and I mean, his game really just is not materializing right now, but his teammates, they have other things to worry about. Lumiere's going to get jumped in on. They got the silence down onto him. He's not going to be able to morph, and that's just GG. They'll call it there. 27.5 minutes, and well, in the draft, you know, I said Hokori would come into this a little pissed off, trying to make a statement, blah, blah, blah. No, it's 5RAT who make the statement here in Game 1.
You know, they look fantastic, and Ken, it sucks to mention it, but in very similar fashion to their previous series against Hokori, it just kind of works out. It's where you don't want to be the team to ban out this Naga Siren, and 5RAT take the worst pick. They take first pick, but it just works. They're just happy with their situations in pretty much every single way, and they lane fantastically. Everybody just played well. Of course, it's hard to say that because DNM didn't have to play well. He's playing Naga Siren versus Visage. There's just no hope for Vitaly in that lane to shut down the Naga really in any way. It's the rest of the lineup that needs to come and shut him down. But I think both Kits and Speed just kind of worked their laning opponents, and then they played off of that advantage pretty much the entire time, as well as I think Lumiere having an especially bad game. Of course, in part due to the fact that Moose was also playing extremely solid on that Hoodwink, but having 6 deaths on Lumiere, I mean, Lumiere's the type of player we see rarely drop 3 deaths in an entire series, so this was definitely not the showing for him.
Yeah, everything basically goes wrong. Right? Lumiere's start's not great. Analog obviously never comes online. Vitaly basically didn't get to be a hero, and the Hokori duo in the support roles that we were talking about in the draft having some aggressive potential, ET got out aggressed. That's not a word. You know what I mean. 5RAT were able to play the style that Hokori were hoping to get from their supports, and I don't know. I'm still tempted to call Moose the MVP here. 5-1 and 15. Bushwhacks and sharpshooter hits were always on the mark, and he was a large part of why they found that early momentum.
No, 100%. He was level 7 at 10 minutes into the game. He's just setting things up everywhere. He's griefing the Tiny, killing the water runes. I mean, everything just worked. And I mean, again, the KDAs, the net worth, it all just speaks for itself. And I think coming into game 2, Hokori might look to have a little bit stronger lanes, because this was not it from them.
Weak performance from Hokori. Now their 3rd straight loss in Pro Series, so they're going to try and do something to turn the tides now and try to slow the momentum, because 5RAT are looking pretty damn good. So we are going to be moving into game 2 in just a couple of minutes, so we will step aside and see you on the other side of this commercial.